Nice. Welcome everyone to OCHATO, the fortnightly podcast where we drink tea and talk about manga. This is Oliver.
I am Suellen.
And I am Jade.
So every 2 weeks we pick a manga that one of us has recommended and we read up to a certain chapter and discuss the manga with a heck of a lot of spoilers. This week we're reading Bleach by Tite Kubo and we read up to chapter 70, which is the first arc. This was recommended by me, but before diving in, we must know the answer to the most important question. What is everyone drinking? For me, it is English breakfast.
I'm drinking what's it called? It's like a puka tea, like free mint.
Oh, triple mint. Yes, mate.
Triple mint.
Mm.
There it is. Very refreshing.
I am drinking another puka one, and it's called Love.
Oh, it's pink.
Yeah.
Cute.
It's got rose, chamomile, and lavender in it.
Flowery. Okay, let's talk about some Bleach. So this was one of the manga that I grew up reading, or more specifically, I actually watched the anime and kind of read the manga at the same time. So it has a special place in my heart. It's, as I said earlier, it's written by Tite Kubo, and it ran from 2001 to 2016. It's now complete, and it's got a colossal 74 volumes. There was also manga that ran, an anime even, that ran from 2004 to 2012. But sadly doesn't cover right up to the end of the manga. This was an interesting one to come back to because I haven't read it in quite a while. So obviously it wasn't really first impressions for me. Was it new to both of you?
Yep. For me, definitely. I'd never seen that anime.
I'm actually in the middle of watching Bleach the anime, and I think I'm on episode 160.
Okay. 70 was like the soft target, with the hard target I think was 23 or something. I can't quite remember.
25, I think.
25. Okay, that's good. Yeah, nice. All right. What were your first impressions?
I thought when I saw the art, because that's like the one thing that grabbed me, it's very nostalgic to me, like, you know, old school kind of manga style. But I quickly got used to it. It's actually quite like interesting to see like how like the mangaka kind of improves on their like drawing over time, and it's quite typical shonen. I really like it. It's, you know, it gets you with the heartwarming like storylines, which we'll like talk in detail later. But my first impression was that, yeah, like I'm in it for the shonen. I'm here to root for the main character.
Nice.
Got straight into it, yeah.
So with the anime, I actually was not that drawn into it because I couldn't work out what the hell was going on. But once I had continued watching a few more episodes, I got really hooked. The one downside is the fillers.
So many fillers.
So many fillers, and it just kind of detracts from it a little bit. Like, I want to see more action, because, you know, I feel like in an anime, when you've got a momentum in the action, putting fillers right bang in the middle of it kind of kills it a bit, and then trying to pick back up into it is like, oh, okay, I've lost it.
What was different between like the manga and the anime? Like for me, because like it's only the first few chapters, probably there weren't any fillers, but I found that actually it was like action heavy, as in like one story plot after the other, which I get. Like, so I was just wondering if it's like actually added in the anime, or is it this consistently and then later there are a lot more fillers?
It's definitely later. For the anime, there are 366 episodes, and about 163 of those, so about 45%, are filler. The first, I want to say 2 arcs of the anime and the manga are like 1-to-1 adaptation. So the anime starts off pretty much the same as the manga. It's only much later on that you start getting like full-on filler arcs.
As for the manga, first impressions were that I really liked it. And I liked that we got shown Ichigo's normal home and school life before he got made into a Soul Reaper, which was really interesting to see. And I started to wonder after reading a few chapters in, how many times are they going to tell us that Ichigo's 15? Every time it was like, Ichigo Kurosaki, 15 years old. Hair color, orange.
I mean, yeah, I get that. I think because it's like published in like Shonen Jump and stuff, right? Like in the magazine, so it's like they're kind of anticipating like new readers.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, it's kind of hard to say on first impressions because I initially read this like when we were on like volume 5 or something. It was quite a while. No, a bit more than that, but quite a while back, primary school back. So I can't really talk for that. I can only really talk more for coming back to it. I know I used to absolutely love it, and I used to really dig also the filler episodes when I was younger, kind of the earlier filler episodes. It was nice having, for example, Don Kanonji, who's the kind of spiritual guy with the ha 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 ha, or have you do it. And like I was really digging the kind of fleshing out some of the other characters in the fillers. I know they annoyed me later when it was like you're in the middle of a fight and then it's like I don't care what Con's doing. But coming back to it, I actually really kind of dig the pacing at the start. It's pretty quick. There's a lot that happens. It introduces quite a few characters fairly quickly and fleshes them out a little pretty quickly as well. It's also interesting then coming back to it, knowing about stuff that happens later and seeing the kind of setup for that. I was digging it. I really like the art style. It's probably one of my favorites of any manga, I would say.
When you were saying how once you've come back to it after knowing what goes on, you start to see things. For example, at the start, Rukia says that there's 2 types of battles, one for pride and to live.
One for honor and one is for saving other people.
Yeah, exactly. And I've gotten to the point in the anime where we find out that her lieutenant, Kaien Dono, said that to her. And then my mind was blown. So yeah, it's really incredible how this series does that.
Yeah, there is quite a lot of cool callback stuff, especially earlier on. You can see some of the stuff that's going to come in later to various extents if you're really watching out, which I really appreciate in any story. So we've talked a bit about the kind of first impressions of this. What about the artwork? Let's start there, because I've already kind of said my piece. It's one of my favorites. I really like the switch from pretty stuff to funny stuff, and I think it's generally pretty clear. So I really like it.
I really, really loved the art in Bleach. And especially when you think about the pacing of it, it's brilliantly done because there's a really good flow going on between each panel. And I love how facial expressions are done because they really show emotion in this really cool way. And at one point, I loved how they matched the parakeets expression with the little boys. Like they kind of lined them up next to each other. I really loved that. Yeah, and the action scenes as well. I could really understand what's going on in the battle, which was really, really good.
Yeah, the kind of way that they use panels, I really like. In one of like the first chapter, even maybe when Ichigo kind of kicks Rukia and she doesn't think he can see her, and just having her like right in the bottom corner of the panel, like what? Was it one pretty good use? They have some more later on.
I actually disagree with Ichigo. I really love Rukia's art. I said it.
I guess like I think I got used to it, and I think the action scenes are done really well. It's really clear what they're trying to do. But I think like maybe it's because it's such an old manga, and plus like I guess the mangaka is still like molding their style, at least compared to like all the spoiled screenshots and stuff from like more like later on character designs, and like even from like screenshot from the anime, it's a bit different. But I think with the faces, I think the only problem I have is really like the faces, like all the actions and stuff. In a gag scene, they do quite well, but at one point I couldn't tell the difference between one of his sister and Rukia. Yeah, they both had like long black hair, so now the only way to like distinguish them for me is that one of them, the sister, has her like hair all the way back showing her forehead, and the other one has like longer hair, and obviously she's taller, and you can probably tell from context. But if you see her in the background, I'm like, is that the sister or like the Soul Reaper? I couldn't tell. I don't have a problem with it. I understand it's quite early on. It's easy on the eyes. And like I said, the gag scene really well. And plus, when you mentioned the thing about parakeet, I'm just like, oh, yeah, that was like a cute moment. I really love that. Apart from the sort of same face, my trouble with like distinguishing between the sister and the Soul Reaper is, on the other hand, like some of the characters have really like this distinct like character designs. Like Chad. Oh my god, Chad is such a Chad. Like Chad is he's like a JoJo character. Like his design. I love it. we'll talk more about characters later, I guess. I'll elaborate more there.
I mean, why not now? Look at that
Yeah.
smooth transition. So smooth. Right into
Yeah.
characters. Boom. And we'll start on Chad.
Yeah, I like to say, he's not 15. Get out of here. Stop saying he's 15.
He's just well developed for 15.
Perfect, just like JoJo characters. They're meant to be 15 too. But they're not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's like one of my favorite characters. It's just like, he just does good things. Pretty badass.
He's pretty fun. So him, Orihime, and Ishida are like the three companions for Ichigo throughout at least the first arc. And it's kind of fun having the mix of them. So you've got Chad is like kind of gentle giant, but like really strong, as you can see when a flipping eye beam falls on the guy. You've got Orihime, who's the kind of, I guess, ditzy, but very smart. She's fun. And then you've got Ishida, who's, if anybody was going to have the light up glasses, it would be him. And he's very much the like, I'm smarter, I'm better. But he is actually quite a nice guy. And then obviously Ichigo is, I mean, he's the main character, right? He's headstrong, he's crass, he's rude, and he's generally always quite fun to watch. Do you have a favourite of the kind of the first four?
It would have to probably be Ichigo. This is such a shonen MC thing, but just his whole thing of like, oh, I want to help people. And then you can see it in the way that he helps Rukia after she loses her Soul Reaper powers. And he's like, yes, I will do it to help you. And even when he empathizes with Kon, the mod soul, as well, that really touched me. So he's probably my favorite out of the four. But as for other outside characters, I really like Urahara,
Yes.
the shop guy. I think he would probably be my favorite.
Is he the merchant?
Yes.
Oh
He's
yeah,
the
he
merchant.
seems cool and seedy, but I like his design. You know, pretty sexy. Oh yeah, Ichigo. Yeah, no, I agree. But like, it's interesting because he wasn't like at first on board with Rukia's ideology, right? At first, he's like, no, I'm not gonna sacrifice myself for other people. Who do you think I am? Like, but then actually, you know, like he's actually done it like countless times without him even knowing. Like, even at the beginning, like when he saved that little girl, that was kind of like, I liked that because it was unexpected. I thought he was just some like cool kid who just beating up a bully, but actually it was to like help a spirit girl rest in peace. That was a really nice like first story for us to like set the scene of the manga. But yeah, I like his like progression from, oh, I'm not self-sacrificial, I only do this for my family, to like, yeah, no, I can't just stand here and watch something bad happen to everyone. And then slowly she through like Rukia's like guidance, he finally sees that, oh yeah, that's why I need to be the Soul Reaper. Like there's like countless of people out there being attacked by hollows, so whether they're like in front of me or not, I must save them. Yeah, he's pretty cool. I agree with you that. I think there was another character that I also liked besides Chad is Kon, actually. Like, okay, despite the obvious like sexual harassment gags, I like that his idea is like, oh no, like I value every life, like even like animals, because they deserve to live. It's not, you know, we don't get to say they should die or not. I thought that was pretty cool. I like to see his character more. And the stuffed lion, that is the cutest thing ever.
Right. He gets a pretty cute like mini radio show in between the volumes. So I think it's at the end of each volume. So I can't actually find my volume to check. And it's like him interviewing some of the other characters, which is quite a nice kind of way of fleshing stuff out. And just, it's fun, bit off topic. I'm a big fan.
Same.
Kind of pretty cool.
What do you guys think about Ichigo's dad?
I love him. He's one of my favourite characters in everything. Partly because of reasons I will not say, because of spoilers. Just general stuff that happens later. But I think he's a lot of fun and he works quite well as that like clearly dysfunctional dad with like the kids having to like, he's fun to be around, but oh my god, he does not work well as a dad.
Yeah, I think he's quite wholesome. Very wholesome. I like their relationship with Ichigo and the dad. Like right off the bat when they're like yelling at each other about dinner, I'm like, oh, cute.
Although realistically, like, come on, what dad forces their kid to be home? Their 15-year-old kid by 7 p.m. Come on. Bruh. One of the main strengths of Bleach is its cast. So we have a relatively small cast in the first arc. So we see the four that we get near the start. We get some of their families, a little bit of background. And then I won't spoil any of it, but the next arc introduces a heck of a lot more characters, and then you get even more after that. And this kind of mixed cast is, one, really interesting. Two, it's really interesting seeing how different people kind of have different powers and react to stuff differently. And it's fun seeing them kind of bounce off each other. So, you know, some characters are like the antithesis of others, and seeing them kind of meet in either a friendly or a non-friendly setting is always pretty fun. So we meet quite a few of the characters through the first arc. What in general did you tend to think of the plot of the first arc, of what you read so far?
I liked it because, yeah, each of the mini stories, right, that makes up this like first 25 chapters has some sort of like plot progression. It's kind of like Monster of the Week, but except it's like the spirit of the week. They all serve something to like gradually integrate Ichigo to his role as a Soul Reaper. I thought it was quite convenient that like, which story? It was the one about the girl's brother, Orihime. It was quite convenient that they didn't tell us that vanquishing or reaping the hollows don't actually kill them. It's just get rid of their sins, like the sins that they've committed during the time being a hollow. Because like it was quite heartbreaking, like seeing how like the brother just really misses his like little sister, and then learning that, you know, the Soul Reaper has to do his job. And then like after you have this like emotional roller coaster, and Rutika was like, it doesn't actually kill him, you know. And I was just like, come on, you should have said this earlier. I had these like tears in my eyes for nothing.
Yeah, Ruki is not quite so good at telling Ichigo exactly what he needs to know, is she?
Yeah, like either way, I was like, man. I mean, it was smart because, like, you know, you made us care. Because if she told us right at the beginning, like, oh, you know, when you're getting rid of the hollows, it's just, you know, you're not actually killing them, then I think it lost a bit of this like emotional stake. Right? The stake isn't as high. Even though, like, you know, I had a blast, you know, feeling things for the manga. But I'm still like, God damn it, come on. Why do you withhold information like this?
In the first arc, I completely agree with you, Suellen. I think it's great how they've integrated Ichigo into Soul Society. And I loved Rukia's amazement at Ichigo being able to do high-level Shinigami stuff. That was pretty funny to see. Going forwards, the plot took a lot of twists and turns that you wouldn't really expect. Like a kind of weird whodunit, but a really, really weird whodunit. And then going even further than that, it's like, whoa, okay.
The classic, like, shonen, hey, let's turn it up by 10.
Yeah. So going further on, it's more like it's gotten really deep. And I really love the meshing of the battles and the characters and the pairings. Would you call them coincidences? But yeah.
Well, I'd like to pick up briefly on what you said about the meshing of the characters and the battles. So one thing that I thought Bleach does really well is showing character through battle. So pretty much every fight scene in the manga serves to progress the plot in some way, be it telling you about characters or having some kind of difficulty befall a character and seeing how they handle that, which I guess is kind of my first point again. But you see this a lot later on and earlier to some extent when we have the in Arc 1, the Ichigo versus Ishida battle off. And that's a really cool way of saying not only how kind of determined Ichigo is, but also how Ishida's quite okay with like putting people in danger just to prove a point. And it makes him seem a bit colder, which works really well. And they do that consistently throughout the manga, having these battles that really mean something instead of just being, hey, these two people fight and nothing really happened, which I really appreciated. I did like the first arc a lot. I thought it worked quite well to set up the characters. And then later arcs I thought worked really well, either fleshing them out or the world. I thought some of the arcs, I think the one after the second arc was my favourite. Not exactly sure which one it is. Big fan here, but equally I'm quite biased, given that it was one of the ones that I grew up on. So I've got the combo of enjoying it anyway and the nostalgia. So we do have also quite a few good notable moments and your very like shonen moments. I'll probably not say many here because most of them are from way later, though I do like a scene with a certain cat. You know what I mean?
I just have one question. So, because I'm reading this on the official like Viz Media Shonen Jump app, is the translator British? Because at one point I saw Ichigo called the serial killer spirit a 4-star wanker. And then the spirit was like, now this wanker is gonna eat you.
It was fantastic, wasn't it?
Wait, what is this? Who says that? And the fact, like, the first clue that I had was, Chad is called Chad. So I'm like, what the hell? What are these, like, lingo? Like, it's so British. It's just so, like, off-putting. Seeing it in, like, a Japanese translation. Calling someone a wanker.
He's pretty rude, right?
Yeah.
And it is pretty crass calling somebody that.
But I swear it's like usually you go with like arsehole or something.
Whoa, this is a shonen. We're limited to wanker here.
It's not.
I mean, I'd say it's a bit left rude, but it's still pretty rude.
But the meaning of it is definitely more obscene than a body part,
Well,
it's just like, can you imagine them saying it in a British accent, like everything, like Ichigo?
That's a good point, actually. I've never really had the like internal accent for any of the characters,
mate.
But I guess I don't normally. So that's less a Bleach point. For me, the characters have always had the voices that they've had in the anime, just because that was kind of what I spent a lot of time doing. So I read Ichigo's comments in Ichigo's voice, and so on.
That caught me off guard when I was reading. I was like, "What in the?" Yeah, I love the combat with Chad. I thought it was really cool how he like couldn't see like the enemy. One, he was like really lucky with his shots, and also he has Rukia to help him like navigate. I thought that was a really cool scene. I wish like it gone on for a bit longer, but it was still pretty cool.
It's okay, we get lots more fight scenes with Chad, don't worry.
Yes, he's my favorite. Pretty cool design.
I find the whole British translating thing really funny, because my favourite moment was when Ichigo walked out of the Gregs and went straight into the pump after. I couldn't help myself. Yeah, I think some of my favourite moments is just when Ichigo goes into Soul Reaper mode, and like when Rukia pushes onto his body, his human body is just lying there, like just completely like floppy, and then people have to carry him to like safe locations. But I'm glad that he now has Kon to occupy his Gigai. I think this is a bit later on. I'm interested to see how these scenes are played out in the manga, with the use of the art and the language and the characters and how it's done. In the anime, when they draw their bankais, the way they say it is so epic, like bankai. And I think that's a favourite moment from Bleach for me.
Yeah, I mean, always them having like a power up is always pretty cool, right? And I think it's best if it's a power up that is consistent with what we've learned so far. At least at first, they're like random power-ups, so a bit random. Whereas if you've learnt about this system and you've seen other people with the system, so for example, kind of near the end of the first arc, Ichigo gets his sword name, like the actual sword. And you've seen this before with Renji. So Renji's the redhead guy that comes in to capture Rukia. And he's got a sword that doesn't look like a regular Zanpakuto. And having this system already in place and then having the power-up, I thought made it a lot more satisfying. It's a bit tricky to talk about moments that I enjoyed just keeping it to the first arc, though I did quite like, even though it didn't actually work, the bit with Ishida and the giant bow, when they just strapped the sword to his forehead and then he's like shooting the giant arrows. I really enjoyed that. There's some points much later on that I won't go into that are awesome.
I like the portrayal of family in Bleach. So with Ichigo, his mum was killed by a hollow, and his dad is a doctor with 3 kids, and he's a very loving dad. And then contrasting that with Ishida's dad, who doesn't treat his son in the way that Ichigo's dad treats Ichigo. It's interesting seeing this contrast between the different families, and I like the diversity of the family situations in this manga.
It's good, yeah. I used to, when I was younger, I used to have so many like fantasies where you have these, when it like bleeds over into the school life. And in secondary, primary school, I used to have so many fantasies of that. And I was like, yes, imagine being a Shinigami and like having your friends be like, oh my God.
In admitting that you had these fantasies where you're in a secondary school. Being in a tennis club.
Actually, in year 7, why am I admitting this? But in year 7, I used to gel like one streak of my hair at the front of my head and have it like down in the middle of my forehead and pretend that I was from an anime.
That's the same haircut Rukia has. You were just doing that. I used to love that kind of the crossover bits. And you get them actually quite a lot pretty early on when Ichigo's kind of being dragged out of his normal life into the Soul Reaper life. I really appreciated seeing that kind of the difference. Obviously, this does kind of happen a bit more throughout the rest of the manga, where you get that like some layer of bleed. And for me, those were actually some of the most interesting moments in Bleach, because it gives you that perspective of, one, quite how far they've come, and two, it kind of reminds you where they came from. So I really enjoyed that. What do you think makes it different to the other things we've read so far? I guess for me, it was that it's still a shonen, but the characters are maybe a bit older than you might get in some of the others. So for me, I was directly contrasting this with Naruto. And I think Naruto's like 12 or something, I'd guess. I honestly don't know, at the start, whereas Ichigo's 15. And so having characters being a little bit more mature, I really enjoyed. So it's still a shonen, but it's a little bit more serious. And they are maybe a bit less afraid to, I guess, push it a little further in kind of all aspects.
I think for me, this is kind of an extremely PG version of Berserk, like with a huge sword, the hack and slash.
Yeah, I like that the manga is using this sort of idea, like the relationship between the living and the dead, because people have died and they have so many like unsaid things. It's a way of telling these like really heartfelt stories and these like these heartfelt moments between characters. And it's like an interesting story of, at least in the chapters I read, like up to 25, it's like the start of like a kind of revenge arc, which is quite interesting. I think the only parallel I can draw with like other mangas that I can think of is Noragami and also the Maru's Monokian. For you guys who've like never heard of them, like Noragami is also about this god who's go around and like also vanquishing like evil spirits from the world. But that story is more focused on the actual, like the gods and their relationship, and maybe one particular spirit and how like they live between living and the dead. And also the Moros Mononokian.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's also about like spirits, but they're also vanquishing spirits, but more peaceful ones, and maybe occasionally encounter evil ones and kind of help people. It's more of a focus on the spirits themselves and the stories they have to tell. So whereas Bleach kind of falls in between, where they do both, where they talk about like the people who have died, who just want to like leave, or spirits that have an agenda and want to like kill people for fun or for revenge, etc. And also through that you see like the characters who are alive, their development because of their encounter with these spirits, and sort of discovering like new sides to themselves. That's what's sort of different from the manga that I've read. Anyway, like it's out of like all these 3 mangas, they all have kind of like similar plot points, like where they're all trying to have the same slashing, helping spirits move on, that kind of mechanics. But they're all sort of trying to achieve different things and explore different territories. But either way, I think it's done really well. Because the characters is really well developed. That's why they're not just like one. I guess they are 2D characters, but you know what I mean. Like their personality is not 2D. There's a lot of depth to each and one of them. I look forward to seeing them grow.
Speaking of that kind of how they handle what happens after death, Soul Society, I actually was really digging, and that kind of the way it looks, the way it kind of behaves, and the stories that you can get from that, I really liked. And as we obviously progress and learn more about characters and their pasts, seeing how some of them interact with that world, I really liked, and for me was one of the highlights, because it is basically another world, right? And I guess kind of contrasting it against many other isekais. Not that it's an isekai, but you get my point. It's another world. I really liked what it was. I thought it was interesting. It was different enough from the regular world, and there was just that little bit of delicious overlap.
Was it Ruika, right?
Rukia, close.
Sorry, Rukia.
There we go.
Yeah, like I love her obsessed with like cute drawings and bunnies, because like when she went to the merchant to get the soul candy, right, she made it seem so serious, like, oh, the merchant's like, sorry, I couldn't get you the one that you wanted, but you had to settle for second best. And she's like, it's okay, And then we found out like the best is just like a bunny version of the soul candy. And I'm like, great.
It was the cutest.
I know. Yeah, I love it. And I love these like tiny drawings that they do like after some of the chapters of the volume ends. Like it shows like the different version of the soul candy, or like different version of the whistle that the dad used, which I thought it was super cute. I wanted to like make a new appearance. Like, yeah, there's like 705 chapters apparently. So I want like every 50 chapters he uses a different whistle. Just like a callback, you know.
I actually really like that. The little things they have between some chapters, just to kind of give a little more detail or something. And you don't get that in the anime, but you do get it in the manga. Although I think you get the con radio in the anime. I don't quite remember. But I really, really like those little bits of flesh out. Like, hey, here's all the different Pez dispensers.
Yeah, it like gives it, you know, more depth. I mean, I guess it makes it seem more like real, like the world. There's so much more to it. How did the defective soul actually got into the soul candy? That wasn't very clear, like for me. Like I didn't get how that happened.
I'm not actually 100% sure they explain it. So Urahara is kind of very much grey market, black market guy anyway. Clearly, as you can kind of tell in the first arc, he's not really legal. So I would guess that basically he just ordered a load of that stuff and they were going to return it because it was defective and they messed up, basically.
Like the not skull candy.
That's something quite different.
Soul candy was actually, so it's like in the box that they label defective souls, or it's actually a box of defective soul candies. Is that like...
So they were originally used for, this is explained in Arc 1, those souls were originally meant to be used to battle hollows, and they were like kind of buffed up souls in some way, as you can see from the Chaos concourses at the start. And basically didn't work out, so they all got marked as defective and then were meant to be destroyed. I would guess that that's kind of how they got their hands on them. So they were shipped out. Somehow Urahara came into possession of those, and then rather than getting the actual legit ones that he would have got, I'm sure in a completely legitimate way, definitely, they accidentally gave him the wrong ones. But it's just like, conjecture on my part.
So all the candies in that duck container are like defective souls? Yeah,
I would guess so.
Okay. Yeah, because I was like, they all blamed the little girl. I'm like, she just literally got the order out of the box. Like, what did she do?
I actually really like her generally as a character. She's always, for some reason, the one with the largest weapon, which I still find it funny.
I look forward to that.
I mean, yeah, you kind of see it in the first arc. She's got this like massive rocket launcher thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, I saw that. She was just carrying it.
Yeah.
So I was just gonna say, I love how like Ichigo's classmate like covered for him as soon as the teacher or the principal walked into the classroom or something. When it was not Ichigo, it was like Kon coming in, like jumping in, and like I guess technically it was the classmate who pushed the table over, but I guess it was him who caused the ruckus in the first place and like jumping all over the place. I can't remember, but I just love how they just like covered for him so quickly, like pretend it was something else. And then when the principal left and they're like, oh, is Ichigo okay? Like that kind of stuff. That was kind of cute. You see like, friendship power.
Okay, so we're taking the main character from our last manga. So this is Tsukimi Kurashita from Princess Jellyfish. How do you reckon she would fare in the Bleach world?
Are we assuming that she's the same age?
However you like.
Let's just say she's like still 18, like living in her, let's say they like in the same world, right? I would imagine she will be like one of the victims who like, oh so cool. No, what if like there's like a special chapter of like her mom coming back?
Oh, that could happen.
Yeah, but otherwise she'll just be attacked by the hollow and then gets saved by like Ichigo and friends. That's how I imagine it. If she was one of the students, I don't think she would care, like weird things happening. Like she'll just be talking about jellyfish all the time. Like, that would be her thing, right?
I could see her coming in as like the kind of quiet character that's the like probably would be good friends with Orihime. Orihime would be the like friendly, talkative one, and she'd be the shy, quiet friend. But she'd have this dope sword release that's just like maybe it's like jelly. It looks like a jellyfish, and she like points with the thing. I think there is actually somebody does have a sword that does a jellyfish sting.
What?
In like way later. I don't remember exactly who. I think it's one of the special ops. I could totally see her having like the power up later of just jellyfish everywhere. It would be awesome.
Who do you think she'll get along with the most? As you said, like Orihime.
Yeah, I think she'd be best friends with Ohime. And maybe like a kind of Tatsuki. So Tatsuki, the karate girl, I could see them having like a kind of love-hate relationship. Like they are friends, but they're both like, why are you friends with Orihime? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it'd be fun.
I'd agree with you there, Ollie, and I think she'd be that sort of quiet character. But then I think about her meeting Ishida and his love for tailoring and sewing and making clothes, and they'd get along. Although he'd probably want to put crosses on all the dresses.
So, final thoughts. For me, it was fun coming back to it. I did miss Bleach. I read the first about 100 chapters over the last 2 weeks, and then read the final maybe 20, just because I kind of had to see where they end up. Gotta say, I really liked the first few arcs, so it was fun coming back to it for me.
It was an interesting read because it's like my first encounter with Bleach. I didn't watch any of the anime or heard what it was about. I came in to this like completely blind, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's got its like typical shonen like heartfelt moments. It's got really interesting cast of characters. So yeah, I would recommend it to anyone who enjoys shonen and hasn't actually given this a try yet.
For me, I think that Bleach is a heartwarming story with amazing characters, and I would recommend it to anyone who likes supportive friends and funny moments embedded in serious events. Would recommend.
Nice. So that pretty much wraps up Bleach for us. Next session, who's recommending next session? It's Jade.
Me.
What are we reading?
We are reading Oyasumi Punpun.
Oh, why would you do this to me? I know about this one.
Yeah, it's gonna just make sure that you're in a good place before you start reading it.
Oh, mate, I haven't read it, but I know about this one.
So we're going to read up to chapter 34, which is the end of volume 3.
You're saying I'm going to cry 34 times, aren't you? Well, we'll find out. Okay, so 34 chapters of Oyasumi Punpun.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. See you next time, all. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for listening, and see you next time for Oyasumi Punpun.
Woo!